It is the year 1374. Across Europe, the Black Death has passed in waves. Crusades have ended in silence, and famine has left scars you can still see in the faces of the poor. And yet, behind stone walls and iron gates, noble families retreat into castles each evening with as much fear as the peasants outside. Not of hunger, not of plague, at least not tonight. Their greatest fear comes with nightfall itself, for darkness in a medieval keep is never empty. Every sunset brings a ritual as precise as a soldier's drill. The gates are barred with oak beams thicker than your arm. The portcullis grinds downward on squealing chains. Torches flare in the courtyard, licking shadows onto walls blackened with soot. The castle exhales its final breath of daylight, then clamps shut, bracing itself for the long vigil of night. If you lived here, this would be your world. Every dusk a performance, every evening a defense. You would not simply go to bed the way someone in the 21st century might, slipping into cotton sheets, tapping a phone alarm and trusting the lock on a bedroom door. No, in this age, bedtime is a campaign, an ordeal. If you enjoy these stories, a like or subscription truly makes a difference. It's a wonderful way to support this channel and me personally. So, if you feel inclined, please consider liking this video and subscribing. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you. Oh, I almost forgot to say that I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Where are you listening from and what time is it there right now? Now, settle deeper into your blankets. Let your breath slow, and together we'll slip into the journey. The last shard of daylight slants through the narrow arrow slit, glowing red like a coal before it dies. You stand within the thick stone corridor, air cold and damp, smelling of smoke, of leather, of dogs. Servants hurry past you with bundles of rushes for the floors, or buckets of water to cool the hearth. A steward's voice calls the order. Bolts slide, doors slam, keys rattle on iron rings as each chamber is sealed. Your body reacts as though it has always known this rhythm. Candle stub ready in your hand, key tied to your belt. You pass your mother's door. She is tapping the shutter frame 3 times before fastening it tight. An old charm perhaps, or just habit. You never know which. Even the dogs seem uneasy, pacing, sniffing at the cold draft from the chimneys. No one lingers in the hallways once the lockdown begins. A single footstep after curfew would not be recognized. The steward says every night, meaning if you are caught outside your chamber after the bolts have slid, you will be treated as an intruder, even if you are blood of the family. You remember a story of your cousin last winter, bitten by the very hounds meant to protect him. He had tried to slip from his bed in search of warmer coals. The scars remain on his calf, pale ridges beneath his hose, and so you learn the rules of the night are not suggestions. They are survival. The guards finish their rounds with heavy steps on the stairwell. You hear the iron scrape of the portcullis settling. A servant ties a string of bells across your chamber latch. The bells do not guard you. They guard the corridor. If your door opens, the sound will alert the night watch. The question that lingers, do they ring to keep danger out or to keep you in? You feel the bolt of your door stiff beneath your hand as you push it closed. The wood groans, iron shrieks faintly, then silence. The hush after the last clang is always the loudest. Inside, your chamber is lit by one taper stub. The flame stutters with every draught that creeps through the stones. The walls are cold to the touch, sucking warmth from your skin. On the table rests a small chest, ready to push against the door. Everyone does it, though no one admits it. Bolts are not enough. You look at your bed, a wooden frame with high posts, curtains of heavy velvet drawn to keep in warmth. The mattress is stuffed with straw and feathers, though beneath it your father has insisted on a board. Soft beds make soft men, he growled once. The faint smell of vinegar seeps from the linens, mingled with lavender, charms layered into fabric, not comfort, but defense. Some records suggest nobles truly believed vinegar kept away pestilence. Others hint it was simply a way to mask the stench of smoke and damp straw. You do not know, All you know is that the smell is sharp, clinging, familiar. As the last bell in the chapel tower strikes, the ritual is complete. Curfew. The castle is sealed. You press your palm to the cold iron bolt of your door. For a heartbeat, you let yourself imagine the world beyond. The silence of villages, the frozen fields, the poor huddling by embers. Out there hunger prowls. In here fear does. The candle burns lower. Wax drips, hardening like white scars. The dog's claws click faintly on stone somewhere beyond. Every sound seems magnified. Your breath shallow, the tick of wood cooling in the hearth, the faint whine of wind sliding down the chimney. You lie down, pulling the fur coverlet over your chest. The velvet curtains shiver as you draw them closed. Once left to right, then right to left, always in that order. A maid once forgot, and her mistress miscarried. Coincidence, perhaps, but no one in this castle believes in coincidence. The night is beginning, and though the bolts are slid, though the shutters are barred, though incense has marked your doorway, you feel it already unease, as if the very stones are waiting for something. Your candle flickers, bends low and dies. Darkness presses close. You do not close both eyes, not yet. The castle has its heartbeat, and at night that heartbeat belongs to the servants. You hear them move even now, long after your own door is bolted. A shuffle on the stairs, a cough muffled in the corridor, a faint creak of wood as a chest is shifted from one side of the hall to another. Their voices are whispers, but whispers carry. They drift through the rushes, echoing like secrets in the stone. Each servant has their duty before sleep can come. One lowers torches until they gutter, so the flames do not burn too high, wasting oil. Another sprinkles fresh bundles of rushes on the floor, not just to cover dirt, but to silence footsteps. Soft straw crunching once, then settling. By morning it will smell of mildew and spilled wine, but tonight it is padding for secrecy. You picture the boy with the rope and bells. You heard them ring earlier as he tied them across latches. The bells are not delicate. They clang if touched, crude metal loops that catch at the faintest jolt. If a door opens in the night, no one can pretend not to hear. The sound will run down the corridor and up the stairwell, shaking even the heaviest dreamer awake. But whose protection is it really? For you, or for the household itself? You once asked your uncle, and he looked away, muttering only that doors are dangerous when they swing without warning. From there the silence thickens. The ritual's complete. The household should be still. Yet you know better. The servants' work is never truly finished. Some stay awake in their pallets near the kitchens, listening for bells or footsteps. Others curl at the base of stairwells with dogs beside them. A few, the unlucky ones, are sent outside to patrol the walls, cloaks drawn, breath frosting in the night air. The wind tears at them as they circle the battlements. Their reward is frostbitten fingers, raw from gripping a pike or lantern. Down in the kitchens another set of hands moves briskly. The fires must be damped but not extinguished. Embers must glow, banked under ash, enough to spark again in the morning. A maid takes a broom of twigs and sweeps the hearth clean of grease. Sparks spit upward, dying quickly in the draught. The smell is thick, smoke, meat fat, the sour tang of spilled ale. She whispers a psalm to herself as she works. But it isn't the words that matter. It's the rhythm, the muttered cadence that fills the silence like a charm against what may be listening. One of the last to walk the halls is the steward himself. His boots are soft-soled, but you know the pace. Deliberate, measured, a man counting rooms without needing to open them. He knows every bolt, every hinge, every torch. His key ring is heavy enough to bruise if dropped. You have heard it swing before, iron against iron like a dull chime when he passes your door. He never stops, never speaks, only walks, always at the same time, until he reaches the east stairwell and descends into the dark below. The bells on your door jingle faintly. Then still. Was it a draught, or the boy checking his knots before retreating? You hold your breath. Listen, nothing follows. The silence is thick enough to bite. You remember the way Beatrix, the maid with the freckles, once whispered that she knew who had left their shoes pointing the wrong way under the bed. Just a mistake, you thought. But the mistake grew into gossip, and gossip hardened into scandal. A broken betrothal. A week of cold glances across the hall. A lesson even a servant's whisper can shift the rhythm of a household. It is easy, centuries later, to imagine servants as shadows, nameless and voiceless. But in this castle, they are more awake than the nobility they serve. They know who snores, who mutters in dreams, who leaves a pot unemptied, who lingers too long in a corridor. They collect the castle's secrets like sparks in the ash, tiny and dangerous, waiting for the right draught to catch flame. Records suggest that in some noble houses, servants slept chained at their stations, bound to doors they were meant to guard. Others hint that bells tied across latches were not for intruders at all, but to ensure no servant dared enter uninvited. You don't know the truth, only the sound of the bells themselves, always waiting to betray whoever moves. You lie back against the stiff mattress, hearing beyond the walls. The kitchen girl sneezes once, muffled in her sleeve. The kennel boy hushes a restless hound with a snap of his fingers. Somewhere below, a bucket tips and water splashes against stone. Even mistakes are part of the nightly score, each sound sharp against the background hum. Your candle guttered long ago, but the hall beyond still breathes faint light from torches. You see it seep through the crack under your door, a shifting glow that flickers and dies as footsteps pass. For a moment you imagine the light bending, casting shadows that are not born of men. Then it fades. The dogs settle again, and still the servants move. They are quieter now, but not gone. One hums faintly, a tune too old to name. Another drags a sack of rushes toward the west hall, straw brushing stone in a long sigh. You imagine them, faces pale in the torchlight, hands raw, shoulders bent. They do not rest until the family is sealed, and even then their sleep is lighter than yours. At the faintest cry they will rise, shivering to face whatever steps through the night. The hush after curfew is never perfect. A castle cannot hold silence the way a field can. Stones creak, timber swells, mice scurry between cracks in the walls. But the difference is this: in a castle, every sound is loaded. Every scurry might be a thief, every creak a sign of weakness in the wall, every whisper the seed of a rumor that could undo a household. You pull the cover tighter around your shoulders. The wool itches where it brushes your neck, rough against skin already damp with cold. Your fingers smell faintly of tallow from the stub of the candle you held earlier. Your lips are dry from the smoke that still lingers in the air. Your chest rises, falls. The straw beneath you shifts with your weight, faint crunching beneath layers of feather, and as the final footsteps fade, the weight of the night presses in. Every servant is now where they should be, every door tied, every hearth banked, every pot tucked away, and yet, even now, you feel watched. You close your eyes and hear it all as if your body were made of ears. The dripping water in the cistern below, the rattle of a chain as the portcullis settles, the sharp intake of breath as a servant mutters a charm before blowing out her last torch. Each sound a reminder that the castle is never truly asleep. It only pretends. Your hand brushes the edge of the dagger beneath your pillow. You tell yourself it is enough. The bolt, the bells, the dogs, the servants at their posts, enough. But your heart doesn't believe it. It beats too fast, too loud, as if even it wishes to wake the household with its sound. The silence stretches, and when it breaks, it is not with bells, nor footsteps, nor a whisper. It is the faint sound of claws against stone. The dogs are moving. You keep your eyes closed, breath shallow, as the night continues to rearrange itself around you. The corridor breathes once and grows still, and inside your chamber the last preparations begin. You move by touch because the candle has died. Your fingers know the map of this small world. The shutter bar is a length of oak worn smooth where your palm fits, the latch a cold tongue of iron that always bites your knuckle if you forget to angle it first. You count in your head, 3 taps to test the bar, 3 heartbeats to listen for movement beyond, 3 slow breaths to soften the sound of your own fear. Your mother taps the shutter frame the same way across the hall as she has since you were a child. She would say it is a habit, others would say it is a charm. You say nothing. You mirror her rhythm because in a place like this, the body learns its catechism long before the mind does. You pull the small chest toward the door with both hands and ease it against the lower plank, feeling the wood graze the rushes with a long hush. The chest is not heavy, just linen and a winter cloak folded tight, but it is enough to slow a latch that might lift in the dark. The bells outside your door give a faint peevish tremor at the shift, then fall silent. You find the line of salt along your sill, gritty beneath your thumb. Someone, perhaps Beatrix, has refreshed it. A kindness that feels like a boundary. You whisper thanks to a girl who will never hear it and press a few grains back into place where the shutter meets the stone. You move to the bed, to the ritual that belongs to the hands more than the tongue. The canopy hangs like a small room inside a room, velvet curtains smelling lightly of vinegar and lavender. Mainstream chronicles mention these canopied beds in noble houses not only for warmth but for privacy. Fabric as architecture, fabric as wall. You draw the left curtain first, then the right, the way your aunt insists. You pretend you do not care about the order. That cloth is only cloth, but you obey the invisible rule because you remember the winter the order was reversed and a stillbirth followed, and though the physician spoke of humours and a treacherous cold, the women tightened their lips and straightened the curtains with shaking hands. Records suggest these sequences were superstition, or were they simply the castle making meaning out of grief? Even now you do not know. You only smooth the edge with your knuckles until the nap lies in one direction, tidy, unquestionable. Your mattress sighs when you press it. Feathers shift over straw. Beneath both is the board your father slid there years ago. Soft beds make soft men, he said, giving you a plank instead of permission to sleep deeply. The plank runs like a quiet rebuke beneath your spine. You do not argue with the dead weight of wood. You lift the pillow and test the dagger beneath, its hilt warm from your hand earlier, its edge wrapped in a strip of old linen, so it won't slice the ticking again. A child in the nursery once bled for hours from a hidden knife's careless kiss. Since then the linen is regulation in your chamber, your own small law. You circle the room by feel. The basin sits in its alcove, slim sheen of water catching a ghost of light from the corridor crack. You touch the surface and shiver at the cold. The taste of iron is in the air from the pipe that feeds it. Old water, still water, water heavy, with the stone it has slept inside all day. You wet your fingers and make a cross on your brow. You tell yourself it is to cool your skin. You know it is for something else. On the small table you rearrange the sachets, lavender, rosemary, wormwood, one under the pillow, one at the foot, one tucked where the bed leg meets the floor to nibble at the smell of mice. The 4th sachet is new, tied with red thread. The knot is clumsy, a servant's hurried work, and beneath the crushed leaves a whisper of vinegar stings your nose. Quirky, forgotten detail. The vinegar is as much for fleas as for plague, and sometimes for courage nobody names. You pause at the mirror and hook the cloth over it. Your own face, soft around the eyes from lack of sleep, disappears into the hanging dark. Some say, a mirror uncovered at night invites the soul to wander. Others say the cloth keeps smoke from fogging and pitting the glass. You do not choose a reason. The cloth falls, your breath steadies. The air smells cleaner when you do not have to look at yourself waiting for what you fear. Beyond your door, the castle ticks through its last motions like an old clock, each sound a gear, a far rope sliding through a ring, a dog's collar chiming, the slow mutter of the priest 3 chambers down. He is finishing his own round, perhaps, touching lintels with a stone he keeps in his sleeve. You rest your ear to the door and catch the faintest scrape. Not footsteps, cloth against wood, someone on the other side smoothing the rushes flush with the threshold. For a moment you picture the steward kneeling there to ensure no toe will catch and ring the bells. For a moment you think of him kneeling for prayer. You straighten. Men like that kneel only to work. You let your body learn tomorrow's path in reverse. Shutter, bolt, chest, bed, so you can find each in the dark if you must. You lay your night robe on the stool, quilted wool, heavy sleeves stitched at the cuffs with a thread your mother swears should be red. Against sudden bleeding, she says, tugging the knot. You laughed when you were 12. You do not laugh now. You test the seam along the hem, where a small pocket has been sewn for a talisman. You do not own yet. Your sister hides a bone needle in hers. Your cousin keeps a clove of dried garlic. You curl your fingers into the empty space and decide that emptiness is a talisman too. A tick of time passes. How long you cannot say. The last torch outside sighs itself smaller. You hear the maid with the hoarse voice cough twice, and then once more, as if to tell herself she is still here. You slide under the fur coverlet, and lie on your left side the way the old herbal says to ease the stomach. Physicians of this century agree on some things. That night air is sharp, that draughts can kill, that digestion has moods. They argue about others, whether a man should sleep with feet to the hearth or away, whether a window should be cracked in winter to let bad vapours out, whether the moon pulls on the mind like it pulls at the tides. Letters hint that some households forbade open shutters at night entirely. Others swore a thumb-wide gap saved lives. You leave no gap tonight. The cold finds enough streets to walk without your help. A set piece unfolds behind your eyelids because you have watched it every night of your life. Your mother's door opens the width of a palm and her hand, ring catching the stray light, reaches to touch the hinge that groans. She strokes the iron twice and the noise quiets. She has oiled it, yes, but the stroking remains when the oil does not. An apology to metal, a bargain with sound. Down the corridor a page boy stumbles, bites off a cry and steadies the candlestick, wax drooling over his knuckles. He does not flinch. He cannot afford to drop light. In the chapel a bell rope moves without ringing as the draught tests the cord, and for a breath the whole keep holds still to see whether it will sound. It doesn't. The dogs breathe out. You breathe in. You think of the poor outside, their doors barred with rope, their beds straw without feathers, their nights bracketed by hunger rather than bells. A gentle modern echo intrudes and passes. Somewhere centuries ahead an electric heater clicks, and a phone screen glows like a tame ember. Here you have wool that scratches and a stone that steals heat from your skin. And yet there is a solidarity of sorts even now. Beatrix's clumsy knot on the sachet, the steward's unseen hand smoothing rushes flat, your mother's oil on the groaning hinge, all fingers straining toward a quiet you can share. Would you risk a law to win that quiet? Would you slip the bolt to ask the priest for another stone, to beg an extra blanket from the linen mistress, to steal one more stub of wax? You do not rise. You tighten your grip on the edge of the coverlet until the weave bites your palm and let the question turn to warmth. The plank under the mattress presses a patient line between your shoulders. Your toes find the hot brick someone tucked at the bedfoot and cling to its last breath of heat. The pillow holds the shallow dent of the dagger's hilt. Your breath settles into the room's breath. Slow, careful, as if both of you have agreed not to alarm the other. A mouse chitters behind the wainscot and is answered by a soft, irritated thump from the little dog under your chair. You hear the dog sigh, a human sound, and for an instant the fear loosens like a knot undone. Facts fold themselves into feeling because that is how the castle teaches you, that nobles sleep under curtains while peasants sleep under roofs that leak, that warming pans glide under sheets because winter has no mercy for stone, that shutters are not only to keep out wind but gaze. Still, some things you repeat without knowing why. The salt on the sill, the cloth on the mirror, the left curtain before the right, because debate does not help in the dark. Habit does. Your eyes close at last, not in surrender, but in truce. The bells do not ring. The hounds do not bark. The steward's keys fall silent at his hip. You let the weight of the cover pin you lightly to the world. The chamber keeps its watch. You keep yours from inside the small tent of velvet and breath, until the stone remembers your warmth and the night moves on without you. The first sound is claws, at first so faint you think it part of your own pulse, then louder, distinct, tick, tick, scratch, as the hounds begin their patrol. You feel it through the boards beneath your mattress, each touch sending a tiny vibration into your bones. The little dog under your chair lifts his head, ears twitching. He circles once, nails clicking on wood, then lies down again with his chin pointed toward the door. He is listening with every muscle. The corridor grows restless with their breathing. A collar chimes once, then twice. The smell follows warm leather, straw, tallow rubbed into cracked pads. It is an earthy odour, a living reminder that the castle is never left unguarded, not even in the silence after curfew. Historical fact: noble households of the late Middle Ages often kept packs of mastiffs and greyhounds. Mastiffs were stationed by gates, greyhounds were valued for their swiftness, and small lapdogs were kept close to chambers as living alarms. Some inventories even list special allowances of bread and meat just for the hounds. The brindled hound and his pale-backed companion pass your door. They pause. You hear them inhale long, deliberate breaths, drawing the story of your chamber through the crack beneath the wood. They smell tallow, vinegar on the curtains, wool from your robe, and the faintest trace of fear. The bells tied to your latch remain still, yet your chest betrays you. Your heart beats too hard, too fast, as though it wishes to ring the bells on its own. One hound gives a low huff, almost amused. The other sneezes suddenly, sharp against stone, then shakes his head. The sound ripples the silence like a dropped pebble in water. They move on. Further down the hall, deeper voices rise. The heavy kennel dogs near the kitchens. Their growl rolls upward, thick as thunder. A servant snaps a command. A sharp syllable, silence follows. Perhaps a fox passed too close to the rubbish heap. Perhaps nothing at all. You feel the hairs on your arms lift anyway. The little dog under your chair nudges your ankle with his nose. His body is small, but the gesture is heavy. You slip a crumb of bread under the curtain, a piece saved from the evening broth. He takes it without sound, chewing once, then settling again. His sigh is long, almost human, solidarity in silence. He eats, you rest. Both of you keep the watch. You remember the poor outside the walls, their fires smoke in the fields, their curs circle close, ribs bright as hoops under patchy fur. Same purpose, different world. A noble woman calls her dog guardian, gives him a cushion. A widow calls hers guardian too, wrapping him in her only shawl. Both creatures listen into the dark when people cannot. The corridor sharpens again. A set piece. Footsteps too soft for boots, too deliberate for vermin. Something breathes at the far end. Close to the solar, the brindled hound growls, one deep pulse, claws scraping the rushes. No bells ring. The breath steadies, then retreats. The dogs choose not to chase. You swallow, and the sound in your own throat seems like betrayal. Quirky detail. There is a story told in this household that one greyhound refuses to pass the priest's chamber. Some whisper it is the aniseed rubbed on his hands. Others say the dog has learned that where the priest goes, the bell follows, and the bell always means stillness. Perhaps the animal prefers movement, freedom, noise. Even beasts grow weary of silence. The dogs resume their round. Collars tick. Nails whisper. One coughs. A dry, sudden bark that is almost human in tone. You picture the kennel boy in the yard below, stirring at that exact moment, dream still half in his mouth. His nights are cold, his sleep light. One mistake and he earns the steward's anger. You tug the fur cover closer to your chin. Your toes nudge the brick placed at the bed's foot earlier, now only faintly warm. A draught slips through the chimney. The lapdog squeaks once, Nose twitching, you can taste the smoke in the air. Metallic, the ghost of iron from the latch you touched before. Debated point, were these nightly patrols truly effective against intruders, or were they more ritual than defense? Some records suggest hounds were more likely to attack family members than strangers, their senses confused by too many scents. Others say no thief dared enter a castle that echoed with dogs' claws at midnight. The truth is lost in the stone. The greyhound halts once more at your door. A breath fogs against the gap. For a heartbeat you consider speaking his name. If you did, he would thump his tail in recognition, but you remain still. To call a dog at night is to invite him, and you are not sure you can bear another body in the room, even one that guards. Minutes slide away. The corridor exhales. The little dog curls tighter, nose tucked under his tail. His ribs rise and fall in rhythm, with yours. It is almost a lullaby, the simplest kind, two living things matching each other's breath. You think of fleas. One lands on your wrist, bites. You pinch, roll, flick into the dark. The women in the laundry once joked that fleas prefer noble blood, and they laughed, though they burned their linen with grim faces when winter came. Superstition, humour, and pain live together in the same story. The dogs pass the stair, claws ringing on worn stone. They descend, their shadows shrinking, their collars chiming faint as distant bells. In their wake they leave a scent you recognise as safety. Dog, leather, ash. The castle accepts it as proof that the watch is alive. Time drips. The bells on your latch remain slack. The night is no safer than it was an hour ago, but no more dangerous either. You loosen your grip on the coverlet. Your breath lengthens. The last sound before you drift. A sneeze from the greyhound, startled by his own thirst. The noise is oddly comforting, almost comic. You smile despite yourself, and your eyelids sink. The world softens. The hounds continue their round, guardians of stone and sleep. You lie half awake in the cocoon of curtains, listening to the dogs' patrol fade down the stairs. The air grows still again, almost too still, and that is when the knock comes. A soft, deliberate knock, one tap, then two. You freeze. You know your bolt is drawn. No servant would risk loosening the bells, and yet the knock continues, patient, waiting. You rise, fur coverlet slipping from your shoulders, feet bare on the chilled boards. The air bites instantly. Sharper than any dream, you touch the chest pressed against the door, slide it back just far enough to ease the bolt with both hands. Iron squeals faintly, protesting. The bells jingle once, enough to tighten your chest. When the door opens the width of a palm, incense arrives before the man does. Frankincense, resinous, bitter-sweet smoke that clings in the nose. It stings and soothes at once like a memory you cannot place. The priest stands there in his robe, its hem dusted white from chalk and ashes. In one hand a small carved stone, edges rubbed smooth by many nights. In the other a taper guttering with blue flame. His eyes never meet yours. They fix instead on the lintel above your head. He murmurs a psalm, not loud enough for words to form, more vibration than voice. You catch fragments. Domine custodi. The sound is more rhythm than language, like a lullaby carried from mouth to stone. He presses the carved token to the wood, holds it there long enough for the smell of hot resin to mix with oak. Then he draws a spiral in the air, invisible but certain, before moving on. Your breath is shallow in the doorway. You are meant to feel safer after this ritual, yet what you feel is sharpened awareness, as though by blessing the threshold, the priest has also marked it. Now the doorway seems alive, a seam between safety and peril. Historical fact: priests in many castles walked nightly rounds, blessing doors and chambers. Some sources describe holy water sprinkled on thresholds. Others mention stones or relics pressed to wood. The act was half religion, half psychology, meant to reassure those within. But letters from households hint that it bred unease too. If a door must be blessed each night, what danger lurks outside it? The priest's footsteps fade along the corridor, taper light flickering against stone. You close the door again, push the chest back, slide the bolt home. Your hands tremble on the iron. The smell of incense lingers, hanging in your chamber like mist. You taste it when you swallow. You crawl back beneath the coverlet, dagger within reach. Curtains close around you. Your heart slows, but unease remains. The carved symbol pressed on your lintel. It was a lion, a cross, and a spiral. You have seen it before, though no one explains it. When you once asked your uncle, he only smiled thinly and muttered about keeping the dreaming things away. He never said what the things were. The air inside your curtains is warmer, scented with lavender from the sachets. Still, your eyes stay open. You imagine the priest walking the length of the hall, pausing at each chamber, repeating the same gesture again and again until his voice grows hoarse. His hand will reek of incense, his robe of smoke. Who blesses him when he locks his own cell? A memory surfaces 2 winters ago, when the blessing was forgotten. The priest had fallen ill with fever. No substitute was found. That night, the household stirred more than usual. Dogs whined. A servant swore he heard a shutter creak in the solar. Your cousin screamed from her chamber at nothing she could later describe. By dawn the castle felt bruised, raw, and your father ordered the priest's bed moved to a warmer chamber, so he would recover faster. Since then, the blessing has never been missed. You turn on your side, seeking comfort in ritual. Fingers trace the sign of the cross across your chest. You whisper the lines you remember. Custody me in Noct, guard me in the night. Your lips shape them not because you believe exactly, but because the silence demands filling. From outside the curtain, the little dog shifts, claws ticking once on the board. He sighs, as if echoing your prayer. You imagine him carrying it on, delivering it with his next bark into the vastness of stone. The curtain breathes. You hear straw settle in the rushes, maybe from a servant returning to pallet, maybe only the house exhaling. The incense thickens at the back of your throat, sweet turning bitter. Your eyes sting. You close them, but the smell remains. Quirky sensory detail. In some castles, households burned rosemary and juniper before bed, claiming the smoke purified the air. Tonight, your priest carries frankincense. Heavier, foreign, it reminds you of the chapel where you kneel on cold mornings, incense rising like ghosts to the rafters. In a small chamber it is less holy, more suffocating. Your body grows heavy, yet still you wonder, is the blessing protection or surveillance? Does the priest mark your door so angels may guard it, or so others know where you lie? The uncertainty is older than you are, older than the castle itself. The bells do not ring. The dogs are quiet now, perhaps curled at stairfoot, tongues lolling after patrol. The silence is deeper than before. Only the faint hiss of cooling embers breaks it, like a serpent whispering in stone. Your breathing slows. The incense fades at last, leaving only wood and wool. You think of the priest descending, taper in hand, robes trailing ash, pressing stone after stone, until the spiral swallows his voice. He is alone in corridors while you lie within curtains. Yet both of you live in fear of the same thing, the unnamed presence that makes doors need blessing at all. You pull the fur coverlet tighter, dagger hilt beneath your palm, and let yourself drift into uneasy half-sleep. You return to the bed, your body heavy with ritual, yet sleep is never simple here. In this castle there are rules, strange, rigid rules, that govern how a noble must rest. They are whispered by mothers, enforced by tutors, and never questioned aloud, for sleep itself is treated not as a release, but as a dangerous passage, a door that must be guarded as carefully as the gates below. You draw the curtain again and settle under the fur coverlet, aware of each instruction like beads on a rosary. The first, never lie with your feet pointed toward the hearth. To do so is a death omen. Your mother insists. She swears she once saw a cousin laid in his coffin the same way. To mimic it in life is to invite the grave. Another rule: do not leave a mirror uncovered. Even a small bronze disc could trap a soul wandering free in the night, or worse, invite something else to look back. You remember the story of Lady Isabet, who forgot her mirror one winter. In the morning she was found muttering at the glass, lips cracked, eyes wide. She lived, but was never quite the same, and her chamber was sealed for a season. Then there is the strangest command of all: never, on the first watch of night, close both eyes at once. The devil, they say, walks through castles at midnight to test the household. If he finds a sleeper fully defenseless, he leaves a mark, a bruise, a fever, a silence that never lifts. So you lie half awake, lids heavy, eyes slitted against the dark. Mainstream fact: medieval people often slept in segmented patterns. First sleep before midnight, then waking for prayer, conversation, or even labour, followed by second sleep until dawn. Letters and manuals record the custom as common across Europe. In noble houses, the interval between sleeps was often filled with prayers or protective rituals like these. You try to relax, but rules have weight. You feel them pressing on your chest. You roll onto your side, legs curled slightly. A tutor once told you never to sprawl face up. That posture, he warned, makes the body vulnerable to demons who sit on the chest and crush the breath away. He even showed you an old manuscript image, a squat demon perched on a sleeper's ribs. You laughed then. You do not laugh now. The mattress shifts beneath you, feathers sighing around the plank. You tuck the sachet of lavender nearer your cheek, its perfume a thin shield. Beside your pillow the dagger waits, hidden in its linen wrap. Everyone sleeps with something sharp. Even children are given needles to tuck into their caps, so they are never without a weapon. Your eyelids dip. A half-dream begins. You are in the corridor, yet also in your bed. The priest's incense lingers. The dog's collars echo faintly. Your cousin whispers your name, but her mouth does not move. You jolt awake, realizing it is only the rhythm of your own blood. The fire in the hearth has died entirely. The air grows colder. Your breath clouds faintly when you exhale. You clutch the coverlet tighter, though the wool scratches against your skin. Another rule: never sleep fully bare. Clothes, however uncomfortable, guard the body against drafts and bad air. Peasants may sleep naked or in rags. Nobles bind themselves in robes, tunics, stockings. You remember your cousin once tried to discard his robe for comfort. By morning he was fevered, and no one let him forget his folly. A servant's whisper drifts through your memory. A noble may rest, but must never relax. You repeat it like a charm, though your limbs ache for surrender. Quirky detail: in some castles, household manuals instructed sleepers to cover their mouths with a small cloth, lest spirits enter on a breath. You do not have such a cloth, but your mother sometimes presses a handkerchief against her lips before sleep, muttering prayers into the folds. You remember watching her once, her eyes closed, hands shaking. She would never admit it was fear. You turn again. The curtain brushes your cheek like damp velvet. Your toes meet the last warmth of the brick at the bed's foot, fading fast. The little dog sighs once more from beneath the chair, as if he too knows the rules. The chapel bell outside tolls once. Midnight. You stiffen. This is the dangerous hour, when rules matter most. Some chronicles call it the Devil's Walk. Others note that monasteries rang bells then for prayer, not fear, which is true. You do not know. The sound drags through stone like a blunt knife. You close one eye, force the other half open. The darkness beyond the curtain swims, shapes bending, shadows flickering. Perhaps it is only your tired sight. Perhaps not. You remember the steward's warning: once the gates are barred and the dogs are loosed, any footstep is not recognized by this house. So you lie still, body aching, obeying every instruction drilled into you, feet angled away from hearth, eyes slitted, dagger within reach, needle in your sister's cap, Sackets on the bed's corners, salt on the sill, mirror covered, rules upon rules, layer upon layer, like armor built of habits. Debated point. Were these superstitions truly common, or are they exaggerations carried by later rumor? Some scholars claim such practices were isolated, not universal. Yet the weight of them feels real here. They govern the very rhythm of your breath. Your body finally softens into half sleep. You dream of walking barefoot through corridors lined with rushes, hearing dogs pant, bells jingle, incense burn. You reach your chamber door and find it marked with a spiral. The spiral moves, tightening, swallowing the wood. You wake with a gasp, heart pounding, dagger already in hand. The curtain is still, the bells are silent. Only your pulse betrays you. You sink back into the mattress, clutching the coverlet. The rules remain unbroken. For now you are safe. You repeat the old line under your breath. A noble may rest, but must never relax. The words taste like iron, like the latch beneath your hand. At last, exhaustion overwhelms even ritual. Your eyes close against rules, against fear. The castle breathes with you, slow and heavy, as though it too has agreed to sleep, half-guarded, half-trusting, waiting for dawn. If you enjoy these stories, a like or subscription truly makes a difference. It's a wonderful way to support this channel, and me personally. So, if you feel inclined, please consider liking this video and subscribing. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you. The curtains are more than fabric. They are a wall within the wall, a private world stitched from velvet and superstition. You lie inside, wrapped in the weight of cloth, hearing it move faintly with every draught. It breathes like skin. Outside is the chamber, the dogs, the stone. Inside is you, your dagger, your rules, your air. You reach to close them again, carefully, left to right, then right to left, always in that order. A rule older than memory, passed down like blood. You once saw a maid forget and draw them right to left only. Her mistress miscarried the same week. No one spoke of coincidence. From that day, every servant checked the rhythm twice before daring to let go of the cloth. The curtains carry scent, lavender sachets stitched in seams, vinegar brushed on edges to drive away insects. In daylight they gleam with noble embroidery, lions, crosses, spirals, but at night all that remains is texture, rough pile against your knuckle, cold weight pressing down. They are heavy enough that once you tried to push through quickly, and nearly lost your balance. As a child you thought they were to keep light out. As an adult you know better. They keep fear in. Mainstream fact: in noble houses of the Middle Ages, canopy beds with curtains were common, especially in cold climates. They held warmth and gave privacy in rooms where several people often slept together. In inventories, curtains were prized more than mattresses, sometimes passed down as heirlooms. You run your hand along the edge seam, tracing stitches like scars. Some are neat, some hurried. Beatrix, the freckled maid, once told you she can read the household's moods from the curtains. Loose stitches mean haste. Haste means fear. Tight stitches mean patience. Patience means safety. You smiled at her theory, but that night you checked your own curtain and found a loose thread dangling. You cut it away, heart hammering. Quirky sensory detail. The curtain smells faintly of vinegar and ashes tonight. Someone brushed it recently. Perhaps the linen mistress herself. She swears vinegar keeps plague away, even when rubbed on cloth. You wonder if she believes it, or if she simply needs to believe it. The curtain encloses you, and with it comes isolation. The air grows stale fast. You shift, creating a gap the width of a finger to let breath out. Rules forbid opening too wide. Spirits slip through cracks, so you balance between suffocation and danger, gasping lightly. Outside, the chamber is quiet. The dogs are curled somewhere near the stair. The bells have not rung, the hearth is dark. But silence in a castle is always suspicious. You know every stone creaks, Every board mutters, true silence means listening ears. The curtain itself becomes a set piece, a barrier you test with fingertips. You imagine someone else testing from the other side. Once, as a child, you swore you felt a tug back. Perhaps it was only a draught, or perhaps not. You lie back, listening. The fur coverlet scratches your chin. Beneath you, feathers shift. Straw rustles faintly. The plank presses into your back, reminding you that comfort is forbidden. Soft beds make soft men. Your father's voice repeats, echoing with the weight of memory. Another rule. Curtains must be closed fully before sleep, never left half drawn. Half measures invite bad dreams. You remember last winter when your cousin left his open a crack. By morning he was found shaking, eyes wide, unable to describe what he saw. He refused to speak for 3 days. After that, he never forgot the order. Debated point. Some chronicles claim these customs were pure superstition, no more than old wives' tales. Others argue they were necessary in a world where drafts carried sickness and privacy was rare. A curtain could mean survival in a cold chamber. A curtain could also hide murder. You imagine the servants in mourning. They will open every bed, sniff the sheets, adjust sachets, and gossip about every wrinkle. Curtains are not just cloth. They are messages. A curtain tied too loosely might mean a guest sought company in the night. A curtain stained with ash might mean a candle burned where it shouldn't. Even silence leaves marks, and the servants read them all. The air grows warmer inside. You press your face against the coverlet. Your breath smells faintly of wool and smoke. The curtain sways as if stirred by an unseen hand. You tell yourself it is the draught from the shutter, though it is barred. A memory once, as punishment, you were left with curtains open all night. You remember the ceiling looming, shadows crawling across carved beams. Every flicker of torchlight became a figure. Every crack in stone became an eye. You begged to close them by dawn. Since then, you never risk leaving them wide. The little dog outside shifts again. His nose touches the curtain hem, pushing against your ankle. You almost thank him aloud, but swallow the sound. Words in the night are dangerous. Rules say so. Even mutters can invite listening. You close your eyes. Sleep is heavy now, but you force yourself to keep one slit open. The curtain glows faintly with light from the hall. It shifts with your breath. You imagine it as a wall, but walls can be breached. Still, exhaustion wins. The last thing you see before drifting. Embroidery threads glimmering faintly, forming a spiral. You never noticed it before. You wonder who stitched it and what it means. Then your vision softens, edges blur, and the curtain becomes sky. The night has its clock, and in the castle that clock is not the stars or the moon, but the bell. You lie half drowsing behind curtains, one eye slit open as the rules demand when it comes. A single strike, slow, iron heavy, a toll that sinks into the stone like a nail hammered through the heart of the keep. It is midnight. The sound lingers, rolling through corridors, down stairwells, across the courtyard, into the chapel rafters. You hear it in your body too. Your ribs vibrate faintly. Your teeth feel the echo. For a moment, all else holds still. Then silence returns, heavier than before. Mainstream fact. Bells marked more than hours in the Middle Ages. They called monks to prayer, warned of fire, signalled curfew, and tolled for death. In some castles, the midnight bell was known as the death bell, borrowed from monastic practice, reminding everyone that each night could be their last. Your uncle once said the bell meant protection, that no movement would follow after it. Your cousins swore it meant danger, that devils walked then, and only the sound kept them out. You are left with both voices in your memory, unable to know which is truer. The curtain glows faintly, threads shimmering like embers when the vibration passes through them. The dog under your chair whines once, ears pricking, then curls tighter. Even he knows what the toll means. No more movement. Not for man, not for beast. The household is frozen until dawn. You breathe slower, matching the rhythm the bell left behind. You count the beat between each inhale and exhale, but the sound has opened a door in your mind, and memories slip in. You recall the winter a servant was caught in the hall after the bell. She swore she had only risen to fetch water. The dogs bit her anyway, confused by the law of stillness. Her screams carried through stone, and no one dared intervene. By morning she was bandaged and silent, her post gone. Another memory. A year ago the bell was late, only by a minute, perhaps two. Yet in that pause the entire castle seemed to gasp. People shifted behind their doors, waiting, wondering if the silence meant doom. When it rang at last, 100 shoulders dropped in relief. From then on, the steward ordered the rope checked thrice before dusk. Quirky sensory detail. The rope that hangs in the chapel tower is rough hemp, dark with oil from hands. When pulled, it leaves fibers in the palms, a faint resinous scent like pine. The boy who rings it often sucks his fingers afterward, tasting salt and dust. You imagine him up there now, arms aching, chest tight, knowing the whole household waits for his strike. The silence after the bell is never perfect. Your ears stretch, straining for sound. You hear the faint crackle of dying coals, a straw rustle where a mouse shifts behind the wainscot, the distant thump of shutters buffeted by wind. Each noise sharpens because the bell told you none should follow. You shift under the coverlet, careful not to disturb the curtains. Another rule, never move too much after the bell. Restless sleepers invite restless spirits. So you lie still, your dagger pressed under the pillow, your breath measured. Outside, the dogs patrol one last time before settling. Their claws tick, slower now, like punctuation to the silence. The brindled hound coughs once, startling his partner, and the sound fades into nothing. Debated point, was the midnight bell purely symbolic, or did it serve practical defense? Some scholars claim it coordinated guards' shifts, ensuring vigilance. Others suggest it was entirely ritual, a way to comfort uneasy nobles with a rhythm they could cling to. For you, it is both command and omen. Your eyes sting. You let them close for longer stretches, though one slit remains open. The curtain sways gently in a draught you cannot explain. You tell yourself it is only the wind pressing through cracks in stone, yet the sway continues even when the air feels still. Another story surfaces. Your aunt claimed once to hear 3 strikes instead of 1. No one else confirmed it. She died of fever that spring, and servants whispered the bell had foretold it. You have listened carefully every night since, making sure you hear only 1. Tonight you did, yet still your stomach knots, as though you mistrust your own ears. The dog outside the curtain shifts again. He sniffs at the hem, then sighs, a low tremor that feels like agreement. He too heard the bell, and he too will not move again until dawn. Your body aches with stillness. The plank beneath the mattress bruises your shoulder blades. The fur coverlet grows damp with your sweat, yet you dare not shift more than a finger. The castle itself seems to hold its breath, waiting to see if you obey. Time drips like wax. You think of peasants outside the walls, who have no bell to tell them when to be still, only exhaustion from labour. Perhaps they envy your curtains, your mattress, your fur, yet you envy them too, the freedom to turn in bed without fearing a devil will notice. Your eyelids sag, sleep threatens, but the rules keep you awake. Never both eyes closed, never feet to the hearth, never the curtain half open. You cling to them because breaking them feels more dangerous than fatigue. The silence grows so thick you begin to hear your own body as noise. The rush of blood in your ears, the scrape of teeth against your tongue, the shift of lungs. You wonder if someone outside your curtain listens too, counting these sounds as proof you live. At last, exhaustion wins. Your slit eye closes, rules forgotten. The bell still hums faintly in your bones, guiding you downward. You sink into half dreams where corridors stretch forever. and bells toll without rope. You wake once, certain you heard it again, but the castle is quiet. The bell has spoken. The night belongs to silence now. The bell has faded, but the castle is not silent. Beneath the hush, the dogs move. They are the objective bell, the living bell. Their patrol carrying the weight of law more than iron or rope. You hear them first as claws skimming stone, measured and slow, then as the soft vibration of breath drifting under doors. The brindled hound and the pale-backed greyhound pace the corridor. Their rhythm is steady. Sniff, pause, scrape of nail, the faint shake of a collar. They are not searching only for intruders. They are reading the house itself, testing for fear, for weakness, for change. Mainstream fact in medieval keeps, dogs were as vital as guards. Documents list allowances for their food, bread, scraps of meat, even warm milk. Some noble kennels were larger than the servants' quarters. Dogs were both status and defence, trusted more than men. The brindled hound halts outside your door. He sniffs the latch, long and deliberate. The bells tied across it tremble faintly with his breath, chiming a warning to anyone awake. Your muscles tighten. You imagine his eye gleaming in the torchlight, amber catching flame. The little dog beneath your chair lifts his head. He gives a low growl, thin but determined. You slip your hand from the coverlet, fingers brushing the curtain hem, signalling your presence. The growl stops. He settles again. It is his way of saying, I am awake if you are. Quirky sensory detail. Greyhounds are fast, but their paws often smell faintly of milk when warmed by straw. You notice it now. A strange sweetness mingled with the sour tallow of the brindled hound. It drifts under the curtain, a scent more intimate than sight. The dogs move on. Their claws echo down the hall, fade at the stair, then silence. Too much silence. You lie stiff, waiting, until the sound returns. But above you this time, faintly from the solar, they climb, searching every floor. Your father once told you the dogs were loosed not only to guard, but to remind the household of vigilance. Fear keeps men honest, he said. You wonder now if fear keeps them awake instead. The castle is restless. A shutter rattles in the wind. A servant coughs from a pallet near the kitchen. The brindled hound barks once, sharp, clipped. The sound slashes through stone like steel on flint. Then nothing. Whatever stirred is gone. You shift on the mattress. Careful. The plank beneath the straw bites your back. You tuck your knees closer, as if folding makes you smaller, harder to find. The curtain brushes your cheek, damp with your breath. Debated point. Some chroniclers wrote that castle dogs attacked family members as often as strangers, confused by scents in darkness. Others swore the animals knew blood better than men, never mistaking kin, which is true. No one agrees. All you know is the scars on your cousin's calf, teeth marks where a hound mistook him for a thief. The silence breaks again. A faint whimper travels the corridor. Not from your dog, not from you, the brindled hound. You know the sound. It is his way of saying something is wrong, but I cannot name it. You clutch the dagger beneath your pillow, linen wrap rough against your palm. Your heart thuds too fast. The whimper fades. The collar jingles. The dogs resume their patrol, but slower now, uneasy. The little dog nudges your ankle once more. He whines softly, a thread of sound meant for you alone. You press your toes against his side through the curtain. His body is warm, trembling slightly. A memory surfaces. The story of the silent night years ago, when the dogs refused to bark at all. Not once, not even when prodded. By morning, a nobleman was found dead in his bed, lips blue, eyes open. Poison, they said. The servants swore the dogs had smelled it in the air, and chosen silence as their warning. Since then, no one trusts quiet nights. You listen harder. Every creak becomes a voice, every sigh a signal. The hound's claws click, then stop. You picture them frozen at the top of the stair, ears pricked, eyes fixed on something you cannot see. You wait for the bark. None comes. The air thickens. Even inside your curtains you feel it. A weight pressing on your chest, heavier than the coverlet. You draw a slow breath through your teeth, careful not to break the silence. The brindled hound growls at last, low, long, rising at the end. The sound vibrates through stone, shaking the floor. Your small dog stiffens. You clutch the dagger harder, but again nothing follows. Only the faint echo of the growl itself. Fact folded in, medieval people often believed animals sensed spirits before humans. Cats staring at walls, horses refusing gates, dogs howling at night, all treated as omens. Tonight, the brindled hound has seen something you cannot. That is enough to keep you awake. The minutes drag. You try to remember the rules. Eyes half open, feet away from hearth, curtains sealed, dagger close. Obedience is protection, but rules feel thin when a hound growls at shadows. At last the patrol resumes. The collars jingle, nails scrape. The sound descends the stair again, fading into the kitchen's hum. You release a breath you hadn't realized you held. The little dog lies back down, curling against the stool leg. His sigh is shaky, like yours. His tail thumps once weak, before stilling. You close your eyes, though the rules say not both. Exhaustion drags at your limbs. The curtain is warm now, heavy with your breath. The mattress creaks as you shift slightly, plank digging less cruelly. The dogs have resumed their watch. You tell yourself it is enough, that if danger comes, their barks will break the silence before your own scream, that they are guardians of both stone and flesh. But even as you drift, a thought lingers. The dogs are loyal, but to whom? To the family. Yes, to the steward who feeds them. Yes, to themselves always. If they must choose, what will they decide? You do not know. You sink at last into shallow sleep, ears tuned to the faint tick of claws on stone. The dogs keep their vigil. The fur coverlet grows damp with your breath, and you shift beneath it, aware of every stitch of your nightrobe. It is not soft. It is not meant to be. The fabric scratches your wrists and neck, a constant reminder that even in sleep you must be armored. This is no ordinary garment. It is your night armor, the defensive pajamas your family insists upon, a tunic of dense wool, quilted in places, belted with rope at the waist. Underneath you wear a padded shift, heavy enough to warm but heavier still in spirit, as though it is designed to hold you down on the mattress. Fact: nobles of the late Middle Ages often wore layers of wool or quilted linen to bed, unlike peasants who slept half-clothed or unclothed. Physicians swore the body must be tightly wrapped to keep humours balanced. Superstition and medicine mingled in every seam. Your own robe is charcoal grey, stitched with red thread around the cuffs. Your mother insisted on the colour. Red wards sudden bleeding, she said, though you never understood how thread could control blood. When you asked, she only tightened the knot and muttered that questions were bad luck. So you carry the red as she commanded, the cuffs binding your skin each night like a charm. The robe itches. The belt digs into your stomach when you roll on your side, but without it, you would be accused of vanity, or worse, recklessness. You remember your cousin, bold with youth, who tried to sleep one night in only his shift. He claimed he wanted air on his chest. By morning he was fevered, sweating, a rash crawling up his throat. The physician said it was night air. The steward said it was punishment. Either way, he has worn his quilted robe ever since. You tug at the collar, rough wool grazing your chin. The air under the coverlet grows damp, but you dare not remove the robe. Even now, a voice in your head repeats the family saying, "A noble may rest, but must never relax." Quirky sensory detail. The robe smells faintly of vinegar. The laundry maids soak it before drying, convinced the scent keeps both fleas and bad spirits away. You wrinkle your nose at it. Yet when it fades, you almost miss it, as though the smell itself is a kind of guard. The little dog shifts under the stool, his nails clicking once. You think of him wrapped in nothing but fur, free of belts and cuffs. Peasants' dogs sleep like that too, warm by fire, loose and easy. You envy them for a moment, then return to the press of your robe, accepting it like a second skin. A set piece unfolds in memory. Last year, when Lady Agnes came to visit, she refused to wear her defensive robe. She declared it ugly, stifling, unworthy of her rank. That night, screams echoed from her chamber. She swore she had felt hands press down on her chest. Servants found her pale, trembling, unable to speak. The next evening she wore a quilted robe sewn in silk, red thread at the cuffs like yours. No one argued again. You draw the coverlet closer, aware of the way the robe gathers heat, trapping sweat. Your thighs stick to the linen beneath. Yet still you obey. Rules keep you alive. Your mother insists. Comfort is a danger only fools seek. Debated point: were such garments truly universal, or are they exaggerations of chroniclers obsessed with noble strangeness? Some scholars argue nobles wore ordinary shifts, perhaps thicker in winter. Others believe heavily quilted robes were indeed common, part defense, part superstition. Tonight, you know only the weight of your own. You roll slightly, plank pressing harder into your back. The belt cuts your waist. You mutter under your breath, words half prayer, half curse. Your father once said that softness breeds weakness. Yet you wonder if strength also comes from rest, from moments of ease peasants know and nobles never taste. The chamber is still. The dogs have quieted. The incense has thinned. But the robe does not let you forget where you are. Each scratch of wool, each knot of thread, each tug at your skin is a reminder that sleep is not surrender. Sleep is duty. The candle stub on the stool has burned out entirely. Darkness presses in. You touch the cuffs of your robe again, tracing the red stitches. They are uneven, hurried by tired hands. One loop is larger, one smaller. They look almost like a pattern, half spiral, half snare. You wonder if the thread holds you in place more than it wards off danger. Another memory surfaces. The time your little sister woke without her robe. She had kicked it off in restless dreams. In the morning she had spots along her arms, purple and strange. The physician called it a fever. Your mother whispered it was a warning. Since then your sister sleeps wrapped tightly, her arms pinned against her chest by quilted sleeves. You shift again, careful not to disturb the curtains. Your breath grows shallow. The robe tightens when you inhale. It is as though the garment itself resists relaxation, binding your chest until you learn to breathe lightly, evenly. Your body adapts. Your mind does not. Outside, a shutter creaks. Wind rattles iron. The little dog growls faintly. You press your palm flat to your stomach, feeling the robe resist, as if even your own body is an intruder. You close your eyes. The fabric scratches, the belt pinches, the stitches rub, and yet slowly the discomfort becomes rhythm. Scratch, pinch, rub, like a lullaby sung by cloth. You drift into half sleep, convinced the robe itself holds you safe. But a thought lingers. Safety and imprisonment may be the same thing. You shift against the straw and feather, and your fingers find the weight you never sleep without. The dagger lies beneath the pillow, wrapped in a strip of linen so its edge will not slice the ticking. You press your palm against the hilt. Cold, familiar, steady. It is the one constant in a room full of shifting shadows. Everyone keeps a blade close at night. Some nobles hide them in carved sheaths bolted to the bed frame. Others tuck them into boots or hang them inside curtains. Children are not exempt. Your little sister sleeps with a bone needle sewn into her nightcap, so even the youngest may sting, your mother once said. Mainstream fact: it was common for nobles to keep weapons near the bed, daggers, swords, even clubs. Threats came not only from outside but from within families. Ambition did not rest, even behind curtains. Chronicles record uncles cut down by nephews, cousins poisoned by cousins, sons rising against fathers. At night, trust was as fragile as wax. You draw the dagger out an inch. The linen wrap catches, fibers rough against metal. The blade glints faintly in the curtain's dark, a shard of moonlight smuggled into your chamber. Your pulse quickens as though you might use it, though you have never had to. You remember your uncle's warning. A weapon in hand changes sleep. You will never dream softly again. Quirky detail. The hilt smells faintly of oil and salt. Each evening you rub it with a cloth dipped in lamp grease to keep rust away, but your hand also sweats in the night, leaving its mark. Over time, the hilt has learned your skin, darkened where your fingers rest most often. It is yours in a way no robe or curtain ever will be. The little dog stirs, sniffing as though the scent of metal matters to him too. He sighs and returns to his coil. You imagine him dreaming of scraps while you dream of survival. You lie back, blade close, and remember stories. Once, your cousin's chamber was broken into by another member of the family. A quarrel over inheritance. They whispered later. The cousin awoke with his dagger already drawn. The intruder left with scars and silence. No punishment followed. It was accepted in noble houses one must defend oneself. Another tale. A noble woman trained her pet ferret to carry poison-soaked threads into pillows. She slept with a knife always at her throat, lest she not wake to strike. The story is half rumour, half lesson. You do not know which half is true. The curtain brushes your cheek as you test the dagger's balance. It is short, meant for thrusting, not slashing, effective in close quarters. Your tutor once taught you to grip it with the thumb along the spine, to aim for the hollow beneath the ribs. His voice returns in memory. Never hesitate. Hesitation is death. Debated point. Were such lessons formal, or whispered in secret? Some say noble children were taught daggercraft alongside Latin. Others insist it was knowledge passed only within families. You know only that you were shown how to use it before you were shown how to sign your name. Your hand trembles slightly. You are tired. The robe binds you. The plank bruises you. The rules suffocate you. Yet the dagger steadies you. It promises control in a world where so much is dictated. You slide it back under the pillow, linen wrap muffling the scrape. The pillow smells faintly of feathers and lavender, but beneath is the sharp scent of iron. You close your eyes, comforted more by steel than by cloth. The castle moans as timber settles. Somewhere a dog whines. You grip the pillow's edge, reassuring yourself the blade is still there. You imagine what might happen if it were not. The thought chills you more than the draft. A set piece flickers. The morning inspection of beds. The linen mistress lifts pillows, finds daggers, frowns. Mind the feathers, she mutters. One cut sack and you will sleep on straw. You blush, but she does not scold. Everyone knows why the blades are there. Everyone pretends they are not. The air inside the curtain grows hotter. You push the coverlet down, only to feel the robe's rough wool against your skin. The dagger presses against your ribs through the mattress. You roll onto your side, curling protectively. Your body forms a shield around the weapon. Mainstream fact folded again. Poison was a constant fear. Food tasters tested banquets, but even a bedtime sip of wine could be deadly. A dagger was no defense against poison, yet people still clung to steel at night because it gave the illusion of choice. Your breath slows. You think of peasants sleeping in fields, armed only with sticks or stones. You envy their ignorance of inheritance feuds, their freedom from cousins with knives, yet you know their lives are ruled by hunger, storms, war. In your chamber, your enemy may be family, but at least you hold a blade. The curtain sways faintly. You grip the pillow tighter, dagger handle pressing into your palm. You whisper a line you once overheard, better steel at hand than prayer on lips. You You do not know if you believe it, but you say it anyway. The little dog sighs again. You hear claws scrape wood, then silence. The chamber is still. You lie awake, blade beneath your cheek, half ready to strike at shadows. Sleep creeps in slowly, reluctant but certain. You dream of knives hidden in feathers, of curtains slashed open by unseen hands, of cousins smiling with blades behind their backs. You wake with a start, sweat on your brow, dagger still clutched tight. Relief washes you, dreams end, but steel remains. The castle breathes around you, and you breathe with it. The dagger waits under the pillow, cold and loyal, and for tonight, that is enough. Dawn does not arrive gently in a castle. It comes like a hand shaking your shoulder, sudden, brisk, with no patience for dreams. You wake not because you wish to, but because your chamber fills with footsteps, voices, and the scrape of bolts being drawn open. The first sound is the dog under your chair yawning, high and squeaky, followed by the heavy sigh of a servant shifting straw in the hall. A fist knocks 3 times on your door. 2 sharp, 1 soft, the morning signal. You loosen the chest against the threshold, slide the bolt, and step back. The door opens to a procession. At the front is the linen mistress, hawk-eyed and brisk, carrying folded cloth. Behind her, a boy with a warming pan, smoke curling from the brass. A maid with a feather brush follows, and another with sachets of herbs. The room becomes theatre the instant they enter. They move with practiced choreography. Curtains are pulled wide, pillows fluffed, the mattress lifted, flipped, pressed. The warming pan slides under sheets, hissing faintly where coals meet fabric. The maid dusts surfaces with a goose feather, scattering motes that glow in pale light. The sachets are replaced. Lavender, rosemary, wormwood, one beneath the pillow, one at the foot, one tied discreetly to the bed leg. Fact, noble beds were often inspected daily, not only for cleanliness but for safety. Servants looked for lice, damp, or even tampering. A torn seam might hint at poison-soaked thread. A shifted pillow might betray a restless night. In a world where secrets bred faster than fleas, beds became ledgers of behaviour. The linen mistress sniffs at your pillow. Still damp, she mutters. Her words are not for you, but for the others. A record, spoken aloud. She turns the mattress with a grunt, nodding at the uneven dent. Dreamed too hard. Her judgment is half superstition, half gossip. But you feel its weight. By evening, half the household may know how you tossed. Quirky sensory detail. When the warming pan slides across sheets, it leaves a smell, scorched linen mixed with dried violets. The castle's ash is sometimes perfumed, a luxury that masks the stench of smoke. You cough, the odour sharp in your nose. The maid pretends not to notice. Your dagger is discovered, as always. The linen mistress lifts it, frowns at the linen wrap. If you cut another pillow, you'll sleep on straw, she warns. She places it back without waiting for your reply. Everyone in the room knows you will keep it there anyway. The ritual requires both rebuke and silence. The boy with the warming pan stumbles slightly, nearly spilling ash. He catches himself, cheeks flushed. The mistress snaps at him, her voice quick and cold. He bows, eyes lowered. Mistakes in this ritual are not forgiven easily. A poorly warmed bed, a sachet forgotten, a pillow fluffed wrong. Each can carry meanings others will interpret. In a noble house, even linen is language. You sit stiff on the stool, robe wrapped tightly, watching. Your presence matters little. The servants perform as though you are furniture. They speak to one another, not to you. Snippets of gossip slip between motions. A cousin's cough, a lady's refusal of broth, a shutter left unlatched in the night. Their voices braid into a quiet report of the household's pulse. Debated point. Some scholars argue that morning rituals in castles were primarily about hygiene and display. Others claim they doubled as surveillance. Servants reading sheets, smells, objects to gather secrets. Standing here, you feel the truth leans toward the latter. Your bed is not only yours, it is a stage for others' eyes. The little dog noses the maid's basket, searching for scraps. She shoos him gently, but not without a smile. He sneezes, shaking dust onto the rushes. The boy laughs under his breath until the mistress scowls, silencing him. The curtains are shaken, dust clouding the air. You cough again. The feather brush sweeps across your table, your mirror, your basin. Water is refreshed, icy enough to sting your skin when you dip a finger. The smell of lavender grows sharper as new sachets are set in place. You are handed a boiled egg, salted. Breakfast is simple. Egg, oat mush, sometimes bread, not the grand feasts of dinner. You peel the egg slowly, shell flaking, yolk pale. You chew without hurry, letting salt sharpen your tongue. In the background, servants mutter, fold, shake. A set piece unfolds. The linen mistress lifts your coverlet, inspects the fur. She sniffs once, mutters again, still damp at the chest. Her tone carries judgment, as though sweat betrays weakness. She lays the fur back, smoothing it flat. She tucks the edges tighter than before, corners sharp as blades. The act feels less like comfort, more like command. Fact folded in chamber pots are checked too. Though discreet, they reveal more than words. Servants glance, note, whisper. In noble houses, even waste is information. You hide your shame by folding the cloth cover twice. Still, you know they see. The ritual ends as abruptly as it began. The warming pan is lifted, ash trailing. The sachets are pressed into corners. The feather brush tucks into a basket. The linen mistress claps once, sharply. The servants scatter like birds startled from a tree. Silence returns, but it is not the same. Your room feels different. Tighter, neater, watched. You sit on the stool, eggshell crumbling in your fingers, and wonder what story they carried with them as they left. Did they note your sweat, your dagger, your restless sheets? Did they read your night better than you lived it? The little dog curls back beneath the chair. His sigh is heavy, tired. You reach down, brush his fur. His warmth grounds you more than the servant's ministrations. He does not judge your sweat or your restless dreams. He only waits for crumbs. The sun creeps through the shutter cracks, pale and cold. The bell in the chapel tolls again morning call. The castle stirs, heavy with duty. The ritual is done. Your bed is ready, your chamber reset. But you know the truth. Nothing is ever private, not even your sleep. Morning light creeps further across the floor, touching the spot where the chamber pot sits, half hidden behind a carved screen. You dread this part of the ritual more than the bed inspections, more than the linen mistress's sharp eyes, for here the politics are both foul and intimate, impossible to deny. Every noble has a pot. Some are simple, ceramic, glazed, but cracked. Others are made of pewter, engraved with intricate patterns. The highest lords keep silver-rimmed ones, even gilt, as though gilding could soften their purpose. Your own is earthenware, thick and plain, painted once with a red stripe that has faded into brown. Mainstream fact, chamber pots were a necessity in castles. Since privies were often shared, cold and foul, they came in many forms and sometimes carried inscriptions, biblical verses, comic drawings, even enemies' faces. Nobles treated them as both tools and symbols, showing wealth in the vessel of their most private need. You shift on the stool, robe scratching, and glance at yours. The cloth cover has slipped. Embarrassment burns your cheeks, though no one is present. A pot left uncovered invites judgment, laziness, carelessness, even insult to guests. You quickly pull the cloth tight, folding it once, twice. The little dog sniffs near it, tail wagging, then sneezes and retreats. Even he knows the smell tells stories. The servants will empty it later, but first they will look. Always they look. They read contents as if reading scripture. Quirky detail. The pots are emptied by lower maids or by the gong farmer, who carries waste away in barrels at dawn. Payment is often pork or ale. The gong farmer rarely enters the hall, but everyone knows he carries the household secrets. You recall the tale of a cousin who left his pot unemptied for 3 days. The stench seeped into tapestries, forced them to be burned. The shame outlived the smell. He was never invited to stay again. A forgotten pot could ruin a reputation as easily as a drunken quarrel. You lift yours carefully, checking. The weight feels the same. The chip at its base has not changed. No one has tampered. Yet still you worry. Poison could be spread by touch, smeared on rim or handle. Some whispered of wolfsbane rubbed into pots, nightshade dusted on lids. You examine every inch before setting it back. Fact folded in. Chamber pots also carried political meaning. A guest given no pot at all was considered unworthy, unwanted. A guest given a perfumed silver one was flattered beyond measure. Which pot you received was as much a message as where you were seated at dinner. You imagine the linen mistress later, lifting yours, sniffing, noting. She will speak of it in the laundry, not crudely, but as fact. Too much nutmeg in his oats, perhaps. Drank wine after curfew. Her words will spread, and by supper your uncle will know. Privacy is impossible when even waste speaks. Debated point. Some scholars insist nobles cared little for such details, that servants exaggerated their role. Others point to letters where chamber pot observations clearly altered household decisions. You know only that you check yours every morning, heart racing, as if it were an enemy waiting to betray you. The little dog scratches at the rushes, uninterested now. You envy his freedom. He leaves his mess in corners, unjudged, forgotten. No one inspects his leavings for clues to his loyalty. You, however, are bound by scrutiny in every breath, every bite, every drop. A set piece comes to mind, the banquet last winter, when the Duke of Warwick was given a marble pot inlaid with gold. Guests whispered it was cracked in winter, that it leaked. He took it as an insult, leaving before dawn. The message had been received. The host had chosen humiliation disguised as hospitality. Your pot is plain yet safe. You pray it remains so. You tie the cloth tighter, folding it as the rules demand. Never step over a pot, an insult to health. Never speak while sitting, invites spirits. Never place too close to fire, contents ferment, stench unbearable. These rules echo in your head as you cover it. You think of peasants again. They relieve themselves in ditches, fields, barns. No shame, no inspection, no judgment. Yet their freedom carries risk too, disease, exposure, filth. Perhaps nobles' rules are only chains made of fear. Perhaps not. The sun climbs higher, cutting through shutters. A maid's footsteps approach. Soon the pot will be taken, carried away with others, its secrets emptied into the earth. But for now you sit staring at it, as though it might speak, and in a way it already has. The dog yawns, curls tighter beneath the stool. You place your hand on the pot once more, ensuring it is yours, untouched, unchanged. In this household even clay can carry betrayal. The ritual is done. You breathe easier. Yet you know tomorrow it begins again. The day winds toward dusk, and though you have eaten oat mush in the morning and bread with broth at midday, you know the true meal is yet to come. In this castle, supper is no grand feast. It is the bedtime banquet, the hour after sunset when shadows thicken and shutters are barred, when the body is filled not for hunger, but for sleep. The solar is chosen instead of the great hall, its low ceilings holding warmth, its carpets softening every step. Servants bring torches and beeswax candles until the air smells thick with honeyed smoke. You take your place according to rank, close enough to the fire to feel important, far enough to remind you that others hold more power. Fact in noble households. Meals before bed were often smaller gatherings, meant to calm digestion. Physicians warned against heavy or spicy food at night. Yet superstition mingled with diet. Certain foods were believed to anchor the soul in the body during sleep, others to lure it away. The first dish arrives, bread soaked in warm broth, thick, plain, but deliberate. The warmth settles in your chest like a stone, weighing you toward rest. You chew slowly, aware of every servant's eye, of every cousin's glance at the seating order. Who sits nearest the Lord matters more than what is eaten. A second dish follows, barley stewed with marrow, rich and heavy. A cousin mutters a prayer over it, claiming marrow strengthens dreams. Another whispers that marrow traps demons in the belly, so they cannot climb to the chest. You eat anyway. Hunger is not the reason. The ritual is quirky sensory detail. The spoons are small and wooden, smooth from years of use. They taste faintly of resin, leaving your tongue tingling. Some nobles use silver, but wood is preferred here at night. Silver is said to lighten the blood, and lightness tempts the dream world. The boy with the wine jug pours carefully. Tonight it is spiced with cloves and honey, warming but not too sweet. A pinch of salt is sprinkled in the last sip, a rule unbroken. Salt keeps the devil from entering through the mouth, your aunt says. She swears by it, pressing grains between her lips before bed as if sealing a door. A set piece unfolds as platters pass. Figs, roasted, stuffed with almonds. A cousin hesitates, claiming figs lure passion into sleep. The steward frowns, urges him to eat anyway. To refuse is insult, to accept is risk. You take one too, chewing its sweetness, tasting both desire and dread. Fact folded in, medieval diets were deeply tied to humoral theory. Foods were classified as hot, cold, wet, or dry, each affecting body and mind. At night, meals leaned toward heavy and grounding, bread, porridge, meat soaked in broth, to prevent the soul from floating away in dreams. You glance across the table. Your mother rubs clove oil onto her wrists, muttering a psalm. Your uncle peels a quail egg, presses it flat with a knife, then eats it with surgical calm. Each gesture is ritual, as important as prayer. The servants move in silence, trained not to break the rhythm. The fire crackles, releasing the smell of charred plum wood. Shadows dance across tapestries, shifting lions into demons, saints into watchers. You sip again, honey warming your throat. For a moment you almost believe the ritual works. The air feels thick, protective, as though food itself has become a shield. Debated point. Were these beliefs about food widely practiced or confined to anxious households? Some historians argue peasants ate what they could, while nobles had the luxury to invent meaning. Others note that even poor families observed rules, avoiding mushrooms at night, fearing they lightened the blood. Perhaps ritual is the only wealth everyone shares. The final course arrives. Custard of almond milk, flecked with anise. Sweet, heavy, cloying. You swallow each spoonful as though it were medicine. It is not indulgence, but closure. When the bowl is empty, you know the banquet is ending. Then comes the salt ritual. Every person takes a pinch, presses it to tongue or lip. Some whisper prayers, others scowl, too proud to admit fear. You mimic your mother, pressing salt to your mouth. The taste is sharp, metallic. You imagine it sealing you like a lock. The servants clear dishes in silence. Only the clink of wood and ceramic, the shuffle of feet, the sigh of coals breaking in the fire. You sit with hands folded, robe rough at your wrists, stomach heavy with food meant less to nourish than to bind. Quirky image. One servant lays a scented cloth across your lap mid-meal, perfumed with rose water. It leaves your hands smelling faintly of flowers. Later, when you touch the dagger under your pillow, the mix of rose and iron will cling to you, sweet and sharp. The banquet closes without toasts, without laughter. It is not celebration. It is strategy. The lord and lady rise first, their chairs taller, their plates more carefully emptied. Others follow according to rank. You stand when your cousin does, bowing faintly. The solar empties. Servants sweep crumbs, scatter fresh rushes, stir the fire one last time. The household disperses like actors after a play. Each retires to their chamber, stomachs weighted, lips salted, hearts slowed. You walk the corridor, your own belly heavy, your mind fogged. The ritual has worked. Food has become a chain, anchoring you to the bed that awaits. Yet you cannot ignore the unease. The sense that the banquet is less about nourishment and more about control. Still, you obey. Everyone does. You reach your chamber, bolt the door, slide the chest back. The little dog pads inside, curling beneath the chair. You lie down, fur coverlet rising with your breath, robe itching at your wrists. Your dagger waits under the pillow. The banquet sits in your stomach, heavy, deliberate. You feel its weight dragging you toward uneasy sleep. The last taste in your mouth is salt, sharp and bitter. You close your eyes, whispering the line your aunt always repeats. Eat heavy, dream safe. Your stomach is full, heavy with broth and bread, salted custard still coating your tongue. Yet the banquet is not the final step towards sleep. In this castle, food alone is not trusted to hold the soul in place. The true anchor comes in bottles, small, coloured flasks carried by servants like relics of alchemy. The sleep draughts. They arrive quietly, after the tables are cleared and shutters drawn. Each flask is corked with wax, its neck wrapped in cloth. Some glow faintly when set near a candle, herbs suspended like drowned insects. Others are clear, no more than water at first glance, though their taste will prove otherwise. Mainstream fact: medieval households used herbal tonics for sleep, poppy milk, valerian, chamomile, wine infused with spices. Physicians prescribed them to quiet humours, calm restless hearts or drown bad dreams. But dosages were imprecise, and remedies sometimes bordered on poison. Your own flask is pale green, glass thick and clouded. The liquid inside smells faintly of fennel and honey. You hold it carefully, aware of the rules. Drink too little and dreams will swarm like flies. Drink too much and you may not wake. The steward's voice echoes in your memory. Sip once, swallow slow. Let the body sink, not drown. You tilt the flask to your lips, tongue recoiling at the bitterness hidden under honey. It tastes of earth, of iron, of something that does not want to be swallowed. You force it down, one mouthful. The warmth spreads instantly, coating your chest, blurring the sharp edge of fear. Quirky sensory detail. The draughts leave a tingling in the fingertips, as if the skin itself were humming. You flex your hand, watch your knuckles pale, feel the strange buzz of herbs crawling through veins. You know others drink stronger potions. Your aunt prefers poppy milk, thick and white, poured like cream. It pulls her under within minutes. Her breath loud, her dreams silent. But there are rumours she wakes shaking, sweat pouring from her brow, lips whispering words she cannot remember. She still drinks it every night. Your cousin favours wine steeped with mandrake. He swears it gives him vivid dreams of hunting, of victory, of women's laughter, but letters hint that mandrake can choke a man's breath if the dose is wrong. Still, he boasts of his visions, claiming they are gifts from God. Debated point. Historians disagree whether these draughts were cures or curses. Some say they offered real relief from insomnia. Others argue they were dangerous, numbing the body, dulling instincts, leaving sleepers vulnerable. Tonight, with your stomach heavy and your mind racing, you feel the risk and the lure both. The little dog watches as you drink. He whines softly, as if warning. You lower the flask, cork it again, setting it by the stool. The tingling spreads to your toes, now warmth creeping like liquid fire. You lie back beneath the coverlet, head sinking into feather and plank. The curtain sways faintly. Your pulse slows, but the draught does not silence thought. It amplifies images, twisting them until they blur. A set piece begins behind your eyelids. You are walking the corridor, but every torch flame is green, doors open to reveal beds filled with ash. The priest's spiral is painted on every lintel, larger each time, swallowing wood. You clutch your dagger, but it turns to glass, shattering in your palm. You wake with a jolt, breath ragged, heart thudding. The curtain is still. The dog sighs. The flask glows faintly by the stool, catching the candle stub's last light. You wipe sweat from your brow, unsure if moments or hours passed. You sip water from the basin, cold enough to numb your teeth. The taste clears your mouth of herbs, but not of fear. You glance at the flask again. Should you drink more? The steward warned against it. Yet the rules whisper otherwise. Better heavy dreams than none at all. Quirky rumour. Some say servants tamper with the draughts. A pinch more poppy for a restless lord, a drop less honey for a lady deemed too proud. Power can be shifted with a cup. A weakened body is easier to guide. You wonder what yours carries tonight. Obedience or sabotage. You lie back once more, refusing the second sip. Your limbs are heavy, your thoughts lighter. Drifting, you cling to one rule. Trust your blade more than your bottle. The castle around you hums faintly, a chorus of sleepers drugged into silence. You imagine them all in their chambers, lips stained with herbs, breaths slowed, eyes moving behind lids. Dreams ripple like tides through stone. Some are sweet, some are nightmares. All are shared in the same air. You close your eyes again, this time slower, steadier. The draught holds you down, but not fully. The little dog presses against the curtain hem, his warmth grounding you. Fact folded in. In medical manuscripts, drafts for sleep are listed alongside prayers. Both are prescribed, both are expected. The body and the soul require tending, equally fragile in the night. The curtain brushes your cheek. Your dagger waits beneath the pillow. The flask sits by the stool, green liquid thick in the glass. Your breath deepens. The rules are obeyed, the draught is swallowed. And yet unease lingers, because every sip is both shield and trap. You drift towards sleep, not sure if it is safety or surrender. You wake not in your own chamber, but in memory of another, one of the guest rooms the household whispers about. They call them cursed beds, though no one uses that word aloud. Instead, they speak with glances, with pauses, with a servant's shrug when asked where visitors will be placed. Fact in castles, guest chambers were not simply accommodations. They carried layers of meaning, status, hospitality, sometimes insult. To be given the solar chamber near the chapel was an honour. To be placed in the draughty tower far from the hearth was a warning. Beds themselves became messages. You remember when the bishop visited last spring. He was led to the velvet chamber, its bed hung with crimson cloth embroidered with lions. Everyone knew it was a signal. The family honoured him, sought his favour, but a month later, when a lesser noble stayed, he was shown to the west room. That room's bed sagged, its curtains smelled of mildew. He left early, muttering about chills. The insult had been delivered without a word spoken. Quirky sensory detail. Some beds are perfumed with herbs, lavender, thyme, even rose petals scattered on sheets. Others reek of vinegar, hastily brushed to disguise damp. You can tell the value of a guest by what scents their dreams are given. But then there are the cursed beds, the ones no one wants, yet no one dares discard. They sit in chambers little used, their mattresses uneven, their frames scarred by fire or damp. The servants whisper that those who sleep there dream too vividly, wake too shaken. You once sneaked into one with your cousin. The bed was wide, its canopy faded to grey. When you pulled the curtain, a draught kissed your cheek, though no shutter was open. The straw inside crunched louder than normal, as if damp had stiffened it. Your cousin swore she felt something shift beneath her when she sat. You both fled before nightfall. Debated point, were these cursed beds truly haunted, or simply old and poorly kept? Some historians suggest superstition grew around ordinary decay. Others hint that poisonings or deaths in certain chambers left shadows no one could forget. You recall a story told by the linen mistress. A guest long ago was placed in the north room. Its bed was stuffed with feathers that smelled faintly of mould. By dawn he was fevered, trembling, his lips blue. He died before noon. The bed was not destroyed. Linen was too precious. But since then no one of rank has chosen that room. It remains, waiting, its mattress turned but never trusted. The little dog shifts against your ankle, as if reminding you that your own bed is safer, yet the thought of cursed chambers lingers, making your coverlet feel less secure. You glance at your curtains, at the sachets tied to the posts. What if one day your own bed gathers such a reputation? Will future guests whisper of the spiral stitched in your fabric, the vinegar scent on your sheets? A set piece unfolds in memory. Last year, a visiting knight refused to sleep in the room he was given. He claimed the mattress was damp, the straw foul. The steward offered another chamber, but the insult was clear. At supper, the knight sat stiff, lips pressed tight. He left the castle 2 days early, spreading rumours of disrespect, all because of a bed. Fact folded in guest placement was politics. A good bed meant alliance. A poor bed meant hostility. The practice was subtle but powerful. Hospitality as weapon. In some chronicles, entire feuds began over such slights. You lie back, feeling your own mattress shift beneath you. The plank beneath feathers creaks faintly. You imagine a guest placed here, noting the stiffness, the scratch of wool, the faint vinegar smell. Would they call this a blessing or an insult? The curtain sways, brushing your cheek. For a moment you imagine you are in one of those cursed rooms, the west chamber perhaps, or the north. You picture damp feathers, mildew curtains, sachets missing from corners. You imagine waking to find ash in your bed, or symbols carved into wood. Quirky rumour. Some say cursed beds were intentionally left for unwanted guests. Herbs swapped for weeds. Mattresses filled with unwashed straw. Pillows stitched with charms to induce nightmares. Whether true or not, the fear persists. Guests sleep uneasily when placed there, and unease itself can be poison. The little dog whines softly, curling tighter. You reach down, brush his fur. His warmth reminds you this bed, at least, is yours. Familiar scratches, familiar scents, familiar weight of dagger beneath pillow. Not perfect, not safe, but not cursed. Still, you wonder if you travelled, if you were given such a bed, how would you sleep? Would you dare close your eyes fully, or would you lie awake, waiting for the mattress to shift beneath you? The castle is quiet now. The banquet's weight presses on your stomach. The draught hums faintly in your veins, yet your mind circles cursed chambers like hounds on a trail. You imagine each door, each bed, each guest who rose pale in the morning. At last you breathe slow, repeating a line you once overheard. Better a poor bed in your own house than a cursed one in another. The words ease you. You close your eyes, dagger pressed close, curtains sealed. The cursed beds remain in memory, not in your chamber. For now, the castle sleeps uneasily, yet within its walls, not every chamber is given over to silence. In the nursery the rules are different. Children are not spared the rituals, they are only reshaped by them. What is whispered to you as command is drilled into them as correction, each night a lesson pressed into soft minds. Fact, noble children were raised under watchful eyes, governesses, tutors, priests. Discipline was constant. Nighttime was no exception. Letters and manuals describe how children were expected to rehearse prayers before bed, recite genealogies, or repeat moral lessons. A child's chamber was a schoolroom even in darkness. You remember your own childhood here. The beds were smaller, straw crunching beneath thin feather pads, curtains patched instead of velvet. The nursemaid would check each shutter herself, tapping wood 3 times as your mother did, muttering charms you half believed. Then came the recitations. Pater Noster, Ave Maria, Credo in unum Deum. The words ran together until your tongue went numb. Quirky sensory detail. The nursemaid's breath always smelled of onions and beer. You hated it, yet now you miss it. Her voice was scratchy, her hands rough with lye. She would pat your forehead twice after prayers, a signal the night's corrections were complete. In the nursery now, children murmur under woolen blankets, repeating lines drilled into them. One boy stumbles over a psalm. The tutor raps his knuckles. Not hard, but enough. Again, he says. The boy whispers the verse correctly this time, tears shining but voice steady. Another rule. Children must never sleep with toys in bed. Dolls, wooden knights, carved animals. These are placed on shelves before curtains are drawn. Idols invite spirits, the governess warns. You recall once hiding a small carved horse beneath your pillow. It was found during inspection, taken away, burned in the hearth. You cried for nights, but you learned. A set piece unfolds in memory. Your sister, restless, would not settle. The nursemaid tied a ribbon around her wrists to keep her hands still. Not cruel, only practical, she said. Yet your sister's muffled sobs carried through the curtains. By dawn her skin was raw where the ribbon had rubbed. She never fidgeted again. Debated point, were such corrections kindness or cruelty? Some chroniclers describe them as necessary training, shaping children for roles they would inherit. Others suggest trauma lingered, scars of discipline carried into adulthood. You live between these versions, remembering both comfort and pain. The nursery air was always thick with smoke from a small brazier, mixed with the tang of dried herbs, sage for cleansing, rosemary for memory. The smell clung to your hair, your clothes. Even now, lying in your own chamber, you catch faint echoes of it, in the sachets tied to your bed. You hear a muffled cry tonight, faint but sharp, the sound of a child corrected. Perhaps a cuff to the ear for whispering, perhaps a pinch for leaving feet bare outside the covers. Then silence returns, heavy as always. Your own body remembers corrections. The way your legs twitch at drafts, the way you keep one eye open, the way you cover mirrors. None of these habits were born naturally. They were drilled in, stitched with shame and repetition. Quirky memory. Once you wet the mattress. Fear had kept you from leaving the bed, though a pot sat nearby. In the morning the sheets were pulled, inspected, gossiped over, the nursemaid scrubbed with vinegar until the chamber reeked. She made you kneel by the hearth, repeating prayers until knees ached. You never forgot. The little dog stirs against your ankle. He sneezes once, a sound almost comical, and the weight of memory lifts slightly. You scratch his ear, grateful he requires no correction. He is loyal without training, simple in ways no noble child is allowed to be. The curtain sways faintly. You imagine the children across the hall, their curtains stitched with simpler patterns, their sachets smaller, yet their rules are harsher, their corrections sharper. A child who sleeps too deeply is shaken awake. A child who dreams too wildly is told their soul wandered. Punishment follows. A fast, a whipping, a night with shutters left open. Fact folded in. Medieval belief often held that children were especially vulnerable to spirits, their souls too loose in their bodies. Rituals and corrections were meant to bind them tighter, through prayer, through discomfort, through fear. You close your eyes, remembering the sting of discipline, yet you also recall the nursemaid's hand, rough but steady, patting your hair after punishment. Even in correction there was strange comfort, a rhythm of care. You hated it, but you trusted it. A murmur carries from the nursery again. Children's voices chanting in unison, finishing prayers. The sound fades, replaced by coughs, sighs, rustling straw. Corrections are complete. Rules are restored. Sleep is allowed. You roll on your side, plank, pressing into your ribs. You realize your body still obeys lessons long past. No toys, no mirror uncovered, no both eyes closed before midnight. Corrections turn to habits, habits to rules, rules to survival. You breathe slow, dagger under your pillow, robe scratching, curtain swaying. Across the hall, children settle under the same laws, their sobs swallowed by ritual, and you, grown but still bound, drift towards sleep with their voices echoing faintly in your ear. The castle never rests entirely, and nowhere is that more true than in the women's chambers. While men guard with daggers and dogs, the women guard with ritual beauty, with masks stitched, tied, painted onto their faces each night. It is not vanity. It is armor of another kind. Fact noble women in the late Middle Ages and into the early modern period were known to use cosmetics and treatments at night. Egg whites to tighten skin, vinegar cloths to whiten, herbal poultices to fight blemishes. Some wore gloves soaked in milk or vinegar, others bound their hair in elaborate veils to preserve its shine. These practices were as ritualized as any prayer. You remember walking past your mother's chamber as a child, peeking through the half-open door. The firelight flickered across her face, but her face was not hers. It was covered with a paste, pale and glistening, her eyes dark hollows above. She looked both human and statue, frightening in her stillness. She caught you watching once. She only said, "This is what keeps me safe." Tonight, the women gather before low mirrors covered in cloth. The cloths are lifted only briefly, just long enough for them to see the work. Vinegar gloves are pulled on, stiff and damp, hands smelling sharp and sour. Ribbons tie hair into braids that tug at the scalp. One lady presses raw veal against her cheeks, swearing its blood restores youth. Another rubs honey into lips until they glisten. Quirky sensory detail. The smell in their chambers is thick and strange. Vinegar sharpness, rose water sweetness, tallow smoke from lamps, faint iron tang of meat. It is not pleasant, yet it is unforgettable, clinging to clothes and hair until morning. A set piece unfolds as your aunt lowers her mask onto her face. It is linen soaked in egg white, hardened as it dries. When she speaks, her words crackle, muffled as though from behind glass. She whispers prayers into it, believing the mask not only holds beauty but seals words to her skin. Your cousin prefers ribbons tied around her chin, pulling skin taut. She winces, eyes watering, but insists it keeps her face smooth. The governess scolds her for vanity, then adjusts the knot tighter as though cruelty ensures effectiveness. Debated point, did these practices truly preserve beauty, or were they mostly superstition? Some argue the vinegar burned skin, the veal rotted, the ribbons left scars. Others suggest they offered genuine cosmetic effect in an age without soap or medicine. Perhaps both are true. You imagine the women lying down beneath velvet curtains, their faces hardened under masks, hands bound in vinegar gloves. They sleep stiff, barely moving, fearful of smudging, fearful of age itself creeping in while they rest. You recall once being kissed goodnight by your mother while she wore her mask. Her lips were sticky with honey, her cheek cold with paste. The smell lingered on your hair all night. You cried, though you never admitted why. The little dog stirs at the memory, as if sensing your unease. He sniffs the air, sneezes once, curls tighter. You scratch his ear through the curtain hem, grounding yourself in fur rather than vinegar and paste. Another story surfaces. A guest noblewoman insisted on her own mask, prepared with herbs brought from Italy. She swore it came from alchemists, a secret potion of eternal youth, but in the morning her skin was blistered, raw, burned red. She hid behind veils for days, humiliated. The household whispered of curses, of vanity punished. Still, the next evening, others continued their rituals as if nothing had happened. Fact folded in. Manuscripts of the time sometimes described beauty as both gift and weapon. Women were taught to preserve it for marriage, alliance, reputation. A ruined face could ruin a household. Thus masks became defense, a nightly war against decay. The chamber grows still as masks harden, as gloves stiffen, as ribbons bite. The only sounds are shallow breaths, faint rustling of linen, the creak of bed frames as women settle without moving their heads. Quirky rumor. Some said masks also kept nightmares away, sealing the soul beneath layers of cloth and paste. A woman who slept unmasked was thought vulnerable to wandering spirits. Whether true or not, fear gave the masks a second life, as talisman as well as cosmetic. You lie in your own bed, curtains drawn, robe scratching. Do you imagine their faces stiff beneath layers, eyes open in the dark, unable to touch, unable to shift? Their stillness spreads through stone, pressing into your own breath. The little dog whines softly. You whisper reassurance, though your own voice shakes. You close your eyes, picture the women in their beds, vinegar sharp in their chambers, ribbons pulling, honey sealing lips. They fight their war in silence, each mask a shield no less heavy than steel. At last, exhaustion takes you. You sink beneath the weight of rules, of rituals, of masks worn even in sleep. And you wonder which is more frightening, demons outside the castle, or the faces inside, hidden behind their nightly armor. If you enjoy these stories, a like or subscription truly makes a difference. It's an excellent way to support this channel, and me personally, so if you feel inclined, please consider liking this video and subscribing. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you. The castle grows quieter, but not everyone sleeps. There are nights when the household itself refuses slumber, when fear outweighs exhaustion. Then the bells summon people not to bed but to the chapel. They call it the Vigil of the Living, a night-long ritual against things that move unseen. Fact, vigils were common in medieval Europe. Families gathered in chapels during storms, outbreaks, or omens, staying awake with prayer until dawn. Some vigils marked feast days. Others were spontaneous, born of terror. The line between devotion and superstition blurred. You remember the first time you were dragged to such a vigil. The sky outside was black with storm, thunder rolling like stones down a mountain. The chapel glowed with torchlight, every wall flickering with shadows. Your body wanted sleep, but your family knelt, lips moving, eyes fixed on icons. To sleep is to abandon each other, the priest said. And so you stayed, hours stretched into forever. Tonight, the bell tolls again, not once for curfew, not once for death, but 3 times. The sound rattles your ribs. You know what it means. The vigil. Servants tap at your door. To chapel, they whisper. You slip on boots, your robe still rough with vinegar scent, dagger hidden beneath belt. The little dog pads after you, nails clicking on stone. You do not shoo him away. The corridor is crowded with figures. Men, women, children, all half wrapped in robes and shawls. Faces pale in torchlight. Curtains are left open, beds abandoned, chamber pots waiting. The household flows as one body toward the chapel. Quirky sensory detail. The air smells of unwashed wool and tallow smoke, mixed with fear sweat. Feet shuffle on rushes, straw crunches beneath soles. A child yawns, slapped gently by his nurse. To sleep is forbidden tonight. The chapel doors stand wide. Inside, benches creak under weight of bodies. The altar glows with candles, smoke rising in spirals. The priest raises his hand, stone amulet swinging from wrist, and begins a chant. Latin rolls through the air, words half understood yet entirely believed. You kneel with others, knees aching on wood. Your eyes blur with fatigue, but the rules are clear. Heads must not nod, eyes must not close. The devil hunts the drowsy. A set piece unfolds in front of you. Your uncle, normally stern, whispers prayers through clenched teeth, his lips trembling. Your cousin pinches her own arm to stay awake. A servant mutters too loudly, earning a cuff. The priest paces, cloak brushing floor, incense thickening until it stings. Fact folded in, vigils were believed to guard against storms, plague, even wandering souls. Some records describe entire villages gathering in churches, terrified to sleep. Whether the threat was real or imagined, The fear was real enough to bind people awake. You press your palms together, whisper words you half remember. The sound blends with dozens of voices, forming a low hum. It fills the chapel, vibrating in your chest. Outside, wind claws shutters. Inside, everyone sways as if rocked by the same invisible tide. Debated point. Some scholars see vigils as psychological relief, a way to manage communal fear. Others argue they were control. Lords and priests keeping households awake to show obedience. Perhaps both are true. In this moment, you feel both solidarity and pressure, warmth and burden. The little dog curls at your feet. He snores faintly, earning glares. You hide a smile behind your hands. Even in fear, small comforts slip through. Hours drag. Torches sputter. Wax drips thick on the altar. People shift, cough, murmur. The priest's voice grows hoarse but does not falter. He leads psalms, hymns, prayers, each stitched into the night like beads on a rosary. Quirky moment. At one point, the wind slams a shutter open, a candle guttered, smoke pouring. A child screams. The hounds in the yard bark madly. The priest raises his hand, chants louder. The candle is relit. The shutter barred, calm restored. But unease lingers like a bruise. You fight sleep. Your eyes burn, lids heavy. You bite your lip, tasting copper. Your knees ache. Your robe chafes. Yet still you kneel because to falter is shameful. The vigil stretches into timelessness. Some servants sway, half asleep, slapped awake by peers. Nobles pretend stronger, though you see their heads dip too. Only the priest remains firm, voice carrying into each silence. You think of peasants in their huts, sleeping through storms, unbothered by rules. You envy them, even in their hunger. They are not bound by vigils, by incense, by endless psalms. Yet perhaps their freedom costs more. They face dangers alone, while here at least fear is shared. The candles burn lower. Dawn nears. You feel it before you see it. A lightness in the air, a fading of shadows. The priest lowers his hand. The chant ends. A final prayer murmurs. Soft as a sigh, the vigil is over. Bodies rise stiffly, feet shuffle. Some weep, others yawn. Children slump against mothers. Servants carry baskets of spent wax. You stand slowly, joints aching, eyes raw with fatigue. The little dog shakes himself, ears flapping. His yawn is wide, defiant. You envy him again. He slept while you endured. The chapel empties, household dispersing back to chambers. Beds await, cold and rumpled. Yet the fear has lifted, not because danger is gone, but because dawn has claimed its place. You return to your chamber, bolt the door, collapse onto mattress. Curtains close. Dagger at pillow, robe itching. Dog curling beneath chair. Exhaustion swallows you. For once rules fade. You sleep heavy and dreamless, as though the vigil itself stole your dreams away. Dawn creeps through the shutters, pale and thin, yet the castle does not relax. Morning is only another mask, another act in the cycle of vigilance. You rise stiff from straw and feathers, robe scratching, dagger still warm from your hand. Your head throbs from the vigil, but the household has already begun its next set of rituals. Fact, medieval castles did not sleep in the modern sense. Guards rotated in shifts, kitchens lit fires before first light, servants moved before lords stirred. Even in darkness, noise continued. Hammer on iron, bucket on stone, prayer in chapel. A fortress lived 24 hours, its pulse never still. You hear it now. Clank of a bucket carried to the well, mutter of a guard descending stairs, shuffle of maids refreshing rushes. The smell of smoke returns, thicker, sharper, filling halls with a day's promise of labour. You breathe it in, half comfort, half suffocation. The little dog yawns beneath your stool, stretching, tail beating softly. He is the only creature in the household free to sleep or wake as he pleases. You envy him again. He has no rules, no bolts, no daggers, yet he is more loyal than any oath-sworn man. The chapel bell tolls for prime. Its tone is different from midnight's toll, brighter, quicker, but still heavy. It wakes servants more than it soothes nobles. You close your eyes against it, ribs aching from hours of kneeling the night before. Quirky sensory detail. The bell rope leaves resin on the boy's palms, sticky enough that his hair clumps when he wipes sweat. He laughs about it sometimes, but this morning you imagine him silent, eyes red, hands raw from pulling all night. The corridors fill with motion. Guards clatter, servants argue softly. Someone drops a tray of spoons with a crash that echoes through stone. No one laughs. No one dares. Morning is not light. It is scrutiny. Every mistake noticed. Every whisper carried. You recall a story once. After a sleepless vigil, a servant dozed at his post, leaning against a wall. He was beaten with rods, not for the nap itself, but for daring to nap while the castle lived. Lesson repeated often since. The fortress may forgive hunger or filth, but never stillness. The linen mistress arrives again, sharper than before. She inspects beds, notes sheets, replaces sachets. You sit silently, robe scratching, dagger hidden, while she mutters judgments. Too damp, too restless. Better than yesterday. Each word is a verdict that will echo through gossip. Fact folded in, written household ordinances survive that describe such inspections, rules for bedding, chamber pots, shutters, candles. A castle was as much a machine of rules as of stone. To break ritual was to court danger. The little dog trots to the corner, sniffing. He lifts his leg. Careless, free. You watch with envy. Even here, where every gesture is weighed, an animal escapes judgment. Your cousin enters, pale from lack of sleep. His robe is looser, his cuffs torn. The mistress frowns. Careless, she mutters, tugging at stitches. He winces but says nothing. His silence is the only defence. The castle breathes louder now. The kitchen clatters, the yard fills with clanging pails, guards shout from towers. Sunlight pierces a shutter crack, bright and golden. Yet the air feels the same, tense, thick, restless. Debated point. Did castles ever truly rest? Or was night a luxury imagined by chroniclers? Some argue that activity continued almost ceaselessly. The difference between day and night more of degree than of kind. Standing here you believe it. The castle never stops. It only changes rhythm. You rub your face, fingers rough from wool. Your eyes burn, lids heavy. Yet no one asks if you slept. Sleep is private, unmeasured. Actions are public, judged. A set piece unfolds as you walk the corridor. A guard leans against a wall, eyes red. The steward snaps. Straighten! The guard stiffens instantly, hand clenching spear. Another servant trips with rushes spilling. The mistress scolds. The boy bows, cheeks red. Each act is discipline, rehearsed like prayer. You pass the solar. The curtains there are open, beds unmade. Sunlight glows across dust motes, golden and cruel. You think of the vigil, of the prayers muttered, of incense pressed into lungs. Did it protect you, or only exhaust you into obedience? The little dog follows, tail low. He trots into the chapel, nose twitching at leftover wax. He sneezes, shakes his head, lies by the door. He has made his choice. Even here, even in ritual, he will rest. You envy him. As the priest begins, prime, voice hoarse from chanting through the night. His amulet swings. His psalms echo. You bow your head because all others bow. Fact folded in dawn prayers were considered necessary to wake the household spiritually, even as bodies stirred. Some castles skipped. Others clung to them, fearing that without prayer labour would sour, hunts fail, crops die. You murmur the words, half true, half empty. Your voice joins the hum. The castle hums with you. Quirky rumour, some say that even stones never sleep, that walls absorb every whisper, every cry, releasing them at night when drafts stir. You glance at the chapel pillars, wondering what they hold inside. At last, the prayers end. The steward gives orders, the household disperses again, to work, to sweep, to guard, to prepare for another night that will come too soon. You return to your chamber, the little dog padding at your heels. The bed is neat, sachets new, dagger hidden once more. You lie down briefly, not to rest, but to feel the plank and straw beneath you, to remind yourself you are still here. The castle does not sleep. Neither, truly, do you. The castle fades now. Its bells soften into memory. Its curtains fall away. Its corridors shrink to whispers. The rules that pressed on your chest, the bolts, the sachets, the dagger, the robe, they dissolve like smoke. You do not need them anymore. Your breath is slower. The fur coverlet is gone, replaced by your own blankets, warm and familiar. The plank beneath your back vanishes, leaving only comfort. The vinegar tang in the air is replaced by the quiet scent of your room. You are safe. The little dog curls once more, but he does not keep watch. He sleeps deeply, and so may you. The hounds in the corridor retreat into silence. The priest's psalms dissolve into nothing. The spiral on the lintel unwinds until it is only a dream. You feel yourself leaving the weight of stone behind. The cold walls fade, the smoke drifts away. All that remains is your breath, steady, calm. Imagine the hush after snow. Imagine the hush after rain. That hush is yours now. No footsteps will come. No bells will toll. No shadows will push through curtains. The night is only yours, quiet and kind. The castle has carried you through its rituals, its fears, its strange protections, but now it loosens its grip. It gives you back to stillness, to warmth, to rest. Breathe in, breathe out. Let heaviness settle into your limbs, soft and welcome. Each inhale brings comfort. Each exhale carries fear away. The castle never truly slept, but you do, and you are safe. That world fades behind you, stone dissolving into mist, until only your own blankets remain. The weight lifts. The silence deepens. Sleep is here. Sweet dreams.